Hey y'all, welcome to the T-Work podcast, hosted by Grant Banko and me, Adam Moreau. From entrepreneurs and athletes to the rat racers of corporate America and those who refuse to be put in a box, we want to share their stories and understand how they ended up where they are. Success and development come in many shapes and sizes. We want to hear about it all. So grab a drink and pull up a seat. Let's spill some tea and get to it. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the T-Work podcast. Joining us today is Neil Rogers, published author, bar tips. I can't remember the rest of the title, so I apologize, but I'm very excited to hear about it because I think it's something along the lines of everything I learned in business, I learned from behind the bar. I got some of those words right. I know I got some of them right,
You're in
maybe
the
not
zip
all of
code.
them. But he is also the owner and founder of Positive Activity, and we're super excited to get in the conversation today. Neil's currently located in New Hampshire, just outside of Boston, so we're probably going to hear a few one-liners that should make a few people laugh because this is the humor that we needed in our lives. Neil, thanks for coming on. Looking forward to the conversation today.
Guys, glad to be here. Glad to be here. Yeah, so it is everything I needed to know in sales, I learned behind the bar.
Ah,
So
I was
you were
close.
close. You were close. You were close.
Sales, not business. You were there.
I'm business and sales. Yeah, well, sales is business, right? I mean, the accounting stuff and the financial stuff, that's all. That's for you, Grant. Well, I'm gonna go
I
out
just
and
I
sell.
just tell the stories. I don't do the digging into the numbers that much.
Exactly. Yeah.
We're there for the
Not a
vibes.
numbers man. No. Other than commission dollars, that's all I was ever a numbers man about. So if I do this, I get that. Oh, okay. I'll go do that then.
Well, Neil, super excited to get into everything today. You tell us where you want to go. This is a choose your own adventure novel. Do you want to start with being an author? Do you want to start with positive activity? Or is
Well,
there some underlying information that you feel we should all know first before we get into this stuff?
I think for your audience, not really knowing who your audience is. I'm sure it's a lot of young guys like you and the like,
And
and
our
possibly
mothers.
just getting started and maybe floundering a little bit, maybe finding some challenges to get going, and which is where my story started. Story started. I grew up seventh of eight of a Irish Catholic family just outside of Boston, and there wasn't a lot of what we call support, right? And there wasn't a lot of. Love my parents, have no axe to grind, but 8 kids is a lot of kids, and to give them equal support and all that. And it just back in that day, it just wasn't what happened. They did much like I tell my kids, we're doing the best we can with the tools we have and the experiences that we had. My parents were the same way. Literally, if we thought it was a staunch Irish Catholic upbringing that we got, I didn't think my mother had it. And my father could care less on either side; it didn't matter, right? So it was like, but yeah. So it was just it was an environment that did not foster a lot of what I call now positive activity. It was, let's just say that the Socratic method wasn't practiced much around the Rogers household. My way, highway was really more along the line it was all about. As a matter of fact, my brother tells this story. So again, the seventh, this would be the third of eight. Third? Yes, the third of eight. We walked together, and I have a place in Plymouth, Massachusetts, America's hometown. And so I said, Jerry, I need a good story for the family portion of this. Can you give me a story about when you were growing up and you were looking for some support from mom and dad, and let's just say it didn't happen. He said, well, there was this time when the first four went to parochial school, and this is systematic discipline, the rulers, the whole deal, right? The stories they tell, because I went to public school, I have no idea other than what they tell. And so anyways, he was making a case to go to Melrose High. Melrose is where we grew up. It was a little town outside of Boston. And it was something like this. All right, well, mom and dad, listen, here's what I got. If I go to Melrose High, my academics going to be better because I'm going to get home from school quicker. I'll be able to get my my homework done. Then my athletics, he was a quarterback. And, you know, that'll come along as well because I'll be able to go to make sure to practice it, but I don't know all that. Made his case, and it went something like this. No. So there you go. That's kind of what it was like. Right. So there was no reasoning or no, let's chat this through. Let's sit down and have a fireside chat. So that's kind of sets the stage of the environment in which we grew up. So I mean, literally in senior year of my May of my senior year, I was going to my mother and saying, is there something I should be doing next year? Now today, we got the kids' lives mapped out from DNA right up until today and beyond. I mean, I was talking to an old friend of mine yesterday when I was on my flu bed, and we spent 2.5 hours on the phone. Hadn't talked to the woman in a couple of years, and we were just going back and forth with stories like that, and you know, just how it just was like, oh my God, just the way it was. It was just so challenging, right? And you know, she too had struggles getting started and whatnot. So, anyways, that's how I kicked off my distinguished college career. Was at a community college, the first of 3 that I will go to over the next 8 years, my friends. You have met the only person you know, I'm reasonably certain, that's flunked out of 2 community colleges. Okay. So, and I wear it as a
Keep in mind, we did play Division II baseball in Florida, so there are a lot of JUCO dropouts.
Yeah, that's true. There could be. I stand corrected there. Yeah.
Point taken, though. We're with you.
Yeah. So
They might not have been as persistent though and gone to the second community
That's
college.
true. Yeah, our crew dropped out once, or they flunked out once, and that was the end of it.
Let's just give up. Right.
Right. Exactly.
So I go and I do reasonably okay the first semester. I was just like, what am I doing this for? Right. So I was working in hospitality. Right. I was at that time I was working in a place in Boston called the Wharf. It shall come around full circle in a little bit on the Wharf. And so I'm making sandwiches, brunch on weekends, started bussing. Next thing you know, I'm behind the bar doing bar backing. And I'm looking at it like going, shit, that bartending stuff, that looks kind of cool. Now here's where my head's at. That's the only reason why I wanted to be a bartender, because it looked cool. It wasn't because it could be a career move. It was nothing like that. It was just like, yeah, that looks pretty cool. Let me do that. So anyways, I flunked out of the first community college. I set my sights on getting a bar job. I get myself a bar job in this place called the Full Sail in Whitehorse Beach in Plymouth, Massachusetts, which is where I summered my whole life. And now I have a place, not down there, but I live downtown. And it's there where I had this kind of aha moment, because I wasn't myself, let's just say the self-esteem was not very high, because of flunking out and, being directionless and whatnot, but nothing had sparked me. Like, okay, what am I supposed to do? I'm an okay student, just okay. Matter of fact, I joked, my SAT scores and my class rank have one thing in common. They were both in the triple digits. Right. So anyways, I get this bar job and I pour my first drink. I had learned how to pour. We had done some functions, a buddy of mine and we were at the Wharf, and served the drink. Woman takes a sip of it and goes, that's pretty good. I was like, well, here's my first aha moment. It's like, wait a second, that felt good. That was nice to hear, right? Maybe, hold on, maybe I could be good at something here. Maybe this is something that I should pursue in some form or fashion. So I stayed with it, and it was just still summers. It was a summer place, and I got better at it, and I was, because of my interpersonal skills, I you know, hey, you should meet this person, and then, oh, you guys will get along great, and who wants to play darts, and et cetera. And this was a day bartending job, so it wasn't as busy as I was later on in my bartending career. So that type of stuff could happen. So but I also knew that I didn't want it to be, for some reason, I also almost immediately knew I didn't want it to be my life's work. So, but I stayed with it, and I took another swing. Oh, this is going to be my future, hotel restaurant management. Let's go to number 2. So now we're going down to Cape Cod Community College for hotel restaurant management. It didn't work out well either. As in your parlance, another swing and a miss, right? So, but anyways, I still stayed behind the bar, and then I realized that, what am I going to do with this? And people had started counseling me and said, Neil, with your interpersonal skills and what you do, and how you serve people, I think sales would be good for you. Now I still have got to get that damn degree, right? So, how am I going to do this? Well, quite simply, I put a plan together, right? And the plan included, you ready for this? Show up, take notes, actively listen, ask questions. When they're looking for participation, participate in any way you can. They offer office hours, go to the office hours. Anything extra credit to do, do it. And it kind of sounds like sales, doesn't it? So I became a very good student, because what I did was I also had a simple philosophy. And again, I think was my upbringing a blessing or a curse? I say it's a blessing, because I am the only one of those eight people that have taken a sales or people-oriented path and have kind of embraced a positive philosophy. And I started it back then. I didn't really know I was doing it, but I was. And when one of the things, and making incremental changes and looking for little wins every day. How do I just make, just get little things done and chip away and make progress, and every day just get some momentum, right? And then I just became so, my schooling was just, I was a 3.85 student. We got a twice flunked out kid, right? What was the difference? I had passion, I had a vision, I had a process. And I had I had an end game, and I wanted to sell, because I just heard all the things about people selling and making money and da da da. And Lord knows Neil was not going to be an engineer, right? So, so that's kind of how that's how that all started. And then when I finally finished school, and I did, and I graduated from the Harvard of State Schools in Massachusetts, Salem State University. I took my first job as in the food business. So I sold for a food distributor, and started out with nothing, literally nothing. It's like $3,000 a week in business, not in commissions, in business, which equated to like nothing in commissions. So I had to build it. And I basically used that same philosophy. I showed up, I listened, I was well presented. I was, I knew how to greet people. I knew how to talk to people. And I really knew how to listen more than anything else, because of my time behind the bar. So I turned that from $3,000 a week, which turns out to be what, $150,000 a year in sales. I brought it up to 30, so $1.5 million in 18 months. Just showing up. Now, of course, I had to understand what I was selling and all those other things. But in terms of, once you get those basics down, is what I did. Right. So I did that. And then I went into the athletic footwear and apparel business. You would love this. And I did that for 8 years, and I did the same thing. But I went from making, at that point, so when I left the food company, My wife was working at Fidelity. We had just had our first, no, we just got married. And a buddy of mine offered me this job to go work for him and his brother at the in their agency, manufacturer's rep agency, selling footwear and apparel for that. So I went back, and there was a completely commissioned job. I did finally, by the way, while I was building the territory in food, I kept 2 nights on the bar at a place called the Sail Loft. Are you ready for this? Here's the full circle, which used to be the Wharf, if you're following along at home. So anyways, so I did that in that territory. I think they gave me like 250,000 in sales, and that equated to be like, I don't know, $10,000 worth of commissions. And in 4 years, I did 10 million. Same thing. Just following up, always being well presented, just being diligent, not being what I call tenacious, not persistent. Persistence sounds like pest for a reason. Tenacity is, I believe, is where you mix in a whole gaggle of creativity. Do something different that nobody else is doing, right? So you set yourself apart, right? So, and with that, I just just kept on going, and then I got on. In each time, I got on with what this role, this multiplier factor, because, and when we get to positive activity, it's where we prescribe a series of 90-day plans. One 90-day plan may last you 10 years. But I mean, if you need to change and whatnot, but it gets that if you do these things, these practices over and over and over again, and you're getting results, you may need to tweak now and again, right? But you look up after 90 days, you won't believe from where you came, right? So I did that. And then for the last 27 years, my wife and I have had a swag business. Corporate logo stuff. Been very good to us. So, and then 2 years ago, well, during you know what, and I won't say the word, to keep myself from losing my mind, I wrote the book. And the book really was a sum total of a lot of experiences that were done back in the day in the hospitality business, but that we also grew upon, built upon, just as we built the other businesses, the territories, if you will. So it was, so it just wind up at the end. Positive activity is a chapter in the book, but it's also a whole standalone deal we do, because there's so much to it. But we couldn't leave it out of the book because it is part of the story. But in the book, we talk about the simple things. I think you mentioned something about the little things. I do a whole speech on the little things. You know who Jim Rohn is? Ever heard of Jim Rohn?
Yeah. Know the name.
All right. So Rohn, of course, is the guy that mentored Robbins. And that's all Robbins has ever done, is sell Rohn and Robbins. He's never built a prototype like you have, Adam, and whatnot. He's been selling solutions for personal growth and whatnot for a number of years. But Rohn's take on success is it's neither magical nor mysterious. It's the natural consequence of consistently applying, come on, athletes, the basic fundamentals, also known as the little things, right? It's all the same. It gets back to your bait, whatever it is, how you picking up a ground ball, how the positioning of your glove, whatever it is. What in your practice, what you're trying to do are those simple steps that you should be doing every day. So, but all the little things in the book start out with the importance of a proper greeting. Well, what's the old adage that goes with that? You only get one shot at it, right? First impression, that's it, right? Do you want it to be memorable? or memorable, right? So what is it going to be? It's your choice, right? And and there's so many ways you can practice that and whatnot that especially today when you're getting so much of this, and I don't see you guys as these types of people, even at your age. Go say hello to everybody you meet. Everybody you meet. You walk a dog, say hello to everybody you see. You're not going to bat 1,000. Someone is not going to come back in kind, but you'll do pretty good, and you'll have a good feeling about it. So then the other thing is, and where does so you think about I don't know if you got where you guys are at, but do you guys remember when Home Depot first came around? Is that
It was before
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 it
I was
mattered?
born, I believe. Yeah.
Okay. Well, let me
I
take
remember
it.
going there as a
just give
kid
you
and
an
it smelling
example.
good.
If you're homeowners now and you go in, let me just tell you the experience is completely different than what it was originally intended, or at least the way it started out. And that was you walk through the door at Home Depot and there's a sea of orange aprons. Hey, how you doing? What's your name? Hey, Adam, how are you? Listen, what are you here for? You got a project going on? What's your project? Oh, it is great. Are you looking for this, that, and the other thing? Oh, okay. Let me take you over to this. All right. Here are the various versions of this. Now let me take you over to that. I don't care. Here's the various, and then let's look at the other things too. Now combine all that together. I think the best value that's the type of service you would have gotten. Now they hide on you. So where do you go? You go to a local guy. Guess what happens when you walk through the door? How you doing? What's going on? What's your project? So the local guy is still embracing that service, that for initial contact, which gives you the confidence to now hang out and buy or do something, right? So, and then so that's chapter one. But even in chapter one, which is the importance of the proper greeting, see how much there is in that? It's not casual, right? So there's so much to it, and there's so many ways you can get better at it and improve your gig. So, but then the second portion of that is, well, how do you then take that to the next level? So as a bartender, what do you get? Somewhere between 15 and 15 minutes and an hour to develop a relationship, depending upon how long they stay. Give them a nice greeting, get them what they ask for. How do you take it to the next level? Ask them a question. Keep your mouth shut. Here's a good one for you, for your audience. Never avoid, and this is a quote from my guys that I worked with in the sporting goods business. Never avoid an opportunity to keep your mouth shut. Right? Let them talk. This now talks about Dale Carnegie, and what Dale has to say is let them talk about themselves. Do not interrupt them. Do not talk over them. And don't OB them. You know what an OB is? One better.
Ah, that's good. That's really good.
Right? That's how you then, I don't know how you guys feel about that. Do you have a buddy who's always one bettering? You got a story, he's got one better?
Always.
Exactly. So anyway, so that's kind of the theme. So, and then we do a whole thing on time management and then organization. The chapter is called The Most Organized Wins. So this is the type of stuff we talk about in the book, and it's all little things. It's nothing, as I mentioned to you before we started, there's no complex marketing theory here. It's just relationship development. And, it's like anything. I can't, it's partially the reason why I can barely listen to talk radio. They're always talking over each other. They're always arguing. I just can't do it anymore. Can't do it. So that's where the book sets up, and the way that in the book. So how did I come up with it? Why did this even come to me? Well, my daughter, I live on a golf campus here now. We grew up, I brought up my family half a mile that way. And So my daughter was being honored here with the where there's there's an event space up here and all that, and she was being honored as someone to watch under 30 in the from the chamber, 30 under 30 they call it. I don't know if you guys are involved in your chambers or not, but they've got an award for everything, right? So, anyways, of course, as good parents, good doting parents, we were there. So the guy who did the keynote address was the guy who brought Five Guys burgers to New Hampshire, and he was my type of speaker, nuts and bolts, colloquial, no big words, just here it is. And he said, "And do you guys ever work in hospitality?"
Not
I did not.
fully.
Not
I would
really.
say, no, I've never served drinks or food for a living.
Okay.
That's the easiest
So
way to put it.
the way it goes is always a thing called premium. More on the food side than on the booze side. But pre-meal was kind of a place where you learned what was out 86th, as it were. And then what a special might be, maybe the wine of the evening, that type of stuff. And then you get a little bit of a rah-rah speech, much like you guys would get before you hit the field, or what you might still give as coaches today, or even in your hurling, right? So his speech went like this: "We're not in the burger business. We're not in the fry business. We're not in the soda business. We're not in the shake business. We're in the hospitality business." I went just like this. Point of context: I met my wife when I was tending bar in Boston. She was a food server, and I was a bartender. I looked at it. I said, I've never left the hospitality business. I've been bartending on the road for 30 plus years. And that's where it hit me. And then when this guy during I would reach out to people just to, again, one of those things to keep myself from losing my mind. Maybe everybody was feeling the same way, and we all kind of were. So invariably, if I just checked in with somebody with a text, I get a phone call back. This guy calls me back, and he and he tells me, this is now fast forward 4 years. That episode with my daughter happened 3 or 4 years prior to that. And Terry calls me up, and he's the guy who wrote the foreword in the book and all that. And he has just come off of life-saving liver surgery, liver transplant. See, Terry was very successful as a mass. Here you go, back in your world, Grant, a Mass Mutual general agent. But his behavior took him to behaviors where he needed a new liver. So he got one. Completely changed his life around. Amazing. Just the stuff he was telling me he was doing. I wrote a book, I wrote a process, and I wrote a book, I did this, I did that. I said, Terry, I mean, I'm sure you guys know Groundhog Day. I said, you're like Bill Murray in Groundhog Day. What are you, a jazz pianist now too? How did you do all this in the last 18 months? After I saw pictures of him, he's got the tube, he's got the tubes in him. He's on the bed. It's like, okay, we're checking out. And there he was. But he's the one that said, hey, you should write a book. What am I going to write on? And then this thing came to my mind. And then I pieced it together with the Full Sail, that first bar job I had, because we just had a party, 70th birthday party for one of our buddies that we worked with. And at the time I was 58, and I'm going, you're 12 years old? I don't even know how much older than he was than us, but yeah. So anyways, that's when I started writing the book. And that's kind of what got that going. So it's been published for a couple of years, and I've been doing this type of stuff and speaking on. I spoke at Berkeley School of Music. I spoke at companies all around here. So yeah, it's been a real shot in the arm at this stage of my life. Now that's me rambling on for quite a bit there, boys. You jump in anytime you want.
We'll take it. Hey, Neil, you said yourself, never waste a moment to keep your mouth shut. We're just listening to you here. This is your opportunity. No, but I thought that was a great spot to start. And thanks for hitting on the theme of the podcast right away, talking about the little things. And even right at the beginning of what you were discussing one of the things that is a very tangible takeaway for audience members is that everything in your initial process when you went back to school was controllable. It was everything was within your grasp. It was all about your effort and your intention to get something done. Nobody can control except you your ability to listen or take notes or show up or be present. That's all on you. And I think that is such a powerful message in the sense that what's the point of focusing on anything that goes beyond yourself? If you have control over the situation, focus on those things. There's no sense spending time elsewhere. And I just want to say I appreciate you hitting on that. That's something that's very near and dear to me. And I, yeah, I value that tremendously. So, I mean, thanks for the story, kicking it off. I'm really bad with questions in these situations. So, Banko, take it away.
Yeah, I was waiting for the question to come out there, Adam, and
Nope,
it didn't.
wasn't. Just praise.
No, there's definitely a lot to unpack there. I mean, I would step it back, pre-book, go back to the beginning, go back when you were bartending, jumping from community college to community college, and you got that first sales job, and you went into the food industry. Why the food industry? Like, what was it? Just the job was there? Like, how did
Because the
that
job was
process
there.
happen? Job was
Yeah,
there.
it was one of those things. It was one of those. It's actually, I stand corrected. It was my second go. The first go, I went to Manhattan for. I lived on Long Island for a year, and I was selling sporting goods there. But the lesson I learned there was you have to have a product that people can buy. So, yes, it was apparel, but it was new and it was commission. So it's like it really didn't, it was it was very difficult to get that momentum I spoke of before. So when I realized, I said, you know what, this is kind of bottoming out. I should probably make a change. I called a friend that was working at this place, SS Pierce, which I'd known the place for years. I attended bar at one of the sales guys' Christmas parties every year. And I said, this is probably something I should look into. So that's really how it was. There was no strategic plan, just that I need a job, And I called this guy, and sadly, I did not acknowledge him in the book. And this isn't why he did it, but he wound up taking his life this just 8 months ago. So I felt poor about that because he was instrumental in helping me get started. So he had a bad run his last 10 years of his life. So he lost his way a little bit in that case, I believe. Yeah, because I talked to him about it early on when he first came back, when he had trouble with his job, and I said, I've got this program. I think you could help me with it. I think you could sell it. I think you'd be invaluable selling it. He just wasn't he wasn't there for it. So, anyways, back to you. So that's how I got there. Sorry to
Yeah, no,
get
and
over that divergent path, but he was just in my head.
no, I mean, listen, it's your podcast, whatever you stories you tell, it's for here for you to say. And we appreciate you sharing whatever you do. Um, I think it's a good point, and this is kind of why I asked the question of you compared you growing up, big family, there wasn't really a plan. It was like, oh, I'm a senior, what's next? And now your kids, it's like, oh, you're 3 years old, you're going to this college, you're doing this job, it's all laid out for you. And I think that's hard on a lot of kids now because they think they have to have, they're 17 years old and like, okay, I'm majoring in this, I'm going to get a job in this, and this is going to be my life for the next 40 years, without realizing that a lot of people that have had success in their life hadn't didn't have that plan. It was they figured it out as they went. They had conversations, like you said. You called up somebody, and they're like, "All right, I got this opportunity here." And I'm just saying that's I don't really have a question around that. I just think it's a good perspective of the sense of it goes back to relationships. It goes back to the bartending and having those conversations, being able to talk to people. And I think it is a little bit of a lost art. People look down upon jobs where it is more hospitality, communicating with people in person, talking on the phone. That's gone away, and I think that's a lost art.
So maybe I'll take a question here. Why do you think that's been lost, and how can that become mainstream or celebrated again?
Well, I will tell you that I'm here to spread the word as much as I can about those simple little things that I think are important that in basic communication skills. Um, I think back to your thought there, Grant, is that one of the values of how we grew up, valuable things, and anybody that's you've probably seen these things on in social media, whatnot. But I mean, we drank out of hoses. We played kick the can. We played pitcher's hand in baseball, right? We'd play baseball with 6 guys, 8 guys, 16 guys. Didn't matter. How many we got today? All right. We're doing left field, shortstop, pitchers first base, and oh, by the way, the guy on bat is on deck is going to be the catcher. So it was just like being able to think on your feet and put things together. We had this guy, Peter Mortimer, that I grew up with. He was the master of games. We had the most elaborate kick the can games that I've ever seen. It was unbelievable. We did it in the woods, and it was like, and then we'd have like this area that was all cleaned out where the can was and all that, and you had people were guarding it, and people would come in and fake and dodge and come sliding in to kick the can. It was like it's crazy. We played team handball with two carriages from the supermarket as the goals. And you ran around. You played with a tennis ball, and you ran around the yard, and same time of dodging and whatnot. And then if you hit the ball into the carriage, it was this number of points, and if you threw it, it was less. Right. So if you whacked it or whatever, the point of that is that we just thought on our feet. I mean, I'm used to. I grew up used to trying to figure things out. I didn't have this. Well, that's when. Well, eventually, I did. Even without my, with not having the initial skills out of high school to do that, or maturity, I would say was probably more the situation and focus and vision and all that. But with all those things that I figured out along the way, that's how I lived my life. That's how we found solutions for my son, both my wife and I. That's why we built positive activity, because we learned that spending, hold on, let me just get this out of my briefcase. My backpack, I should say. Spending 15 minutes with a journal book in the morning and meditation, planning when you're going to exercise, doing I am statements, affirmation statements, thinking about things like, or writing things like this, which is my credo. So my credo is I've learned that no true lasting success must be built on integrity and fairness. I've learned that true lasting success must be built on integrity and fairness. I commit to pursuing ventures that benefit everyone involved. Success can come as I attract the right energy and collaboration with others. For my part, I will over-deliver to my partners, inspiring their support and partnership throughout my dedication to serving them. I read that every day. That's how I kick off my day. So when I'm there, I've got my mind shift. I've made my mind shift into a positive mode. Right? Now I'm on the path to open-minded, divergent thinking, solution providing, creativity. So now I'm in creative mode. Now, what am I trying to accomplish today? What are my productivity steps in order to make that happen? Whether it's in my music, in my business development. And that's where we take that 90-day period and just do that stuff over and over and over again. And so that's where, and that multiplier effect happens, because activity begets activity. Because while you're in the mix and doing stuff, and you know, and being in that mode first, got your mind right. You didn't open up this first. You didn't open up your inbox. You didn't get all pissed off at something. You started to get your mind shift right. Now you can go through your productivity steps, right? And that's how I think, you know, again, back to growing up and the way that I grew up. I mean, I used to put stickers on my, when I was in the food business. I put stickers on my dashboard. Stay out, make another call. You're just getting started. Be positive. I had no idea why I did that. Zero. Nobody told me to do it. I just did it. Just seemed like the right thing to do. And you know what? It made me feel better. This makes me feel better. Doing all those things in the book, remembering all those things, talking to you guys about it, makes me happy about it. Makes me, you know, because you do, the reason why I do all these things, so I remember to do them. You know, and by the way, I'm not a hard ass about it. You know, you got to give yourself some grace. You got a golf game that day, go play golf. Get back at it the next day. That's all. So
I have a question here, kind of based around all this activity that you were talking about. There's one thing to take action, and there's another thing to achieve. So how in your world, or if you're mentoring someone, do you draw the line between activity and achievement?
activity is the roadmap to achievement. So if you, I mean, don't get me wrong, you know, we're a huge proponent of the 7-touch theory. You guys familiar with the 7-touch theory?
Educate me, please.
It's conventional wisdom states that it takes 7 significant touches in order to get the prospect's attention. Now, you may hit it on the second one. You never know. So now you're into your first meeting, your one-to-one or whatever it is. So you're ready to roll, right? But you always have that to come back to. That's not going to happen every time. You should have, so here's another one. I would suggest people have structured ways to follow up on their networking opportunities. What's your structured way to follow up? And is it 7 touches? Is it tenacious, right? We talked about tenacity. Did you send them something? Did you use a Post-it note? Did you drop a little pen in there so that the envelope has dimension to it, so it's guaranteed it's going to get open? The open rate on a lumpy piece of mail, 100%. Do you ever not open a lumpy piece of mail?
Always got to find out what's inside.
100%. Now, to convert, it's higher than regular direct mail, but it's not like 100%. But you could get closer. And the way that it's going to get closer is because you've the person that you met at that event, you kind of got a sense that they could buy what you sell. You might have a solution for them, right? If you don't, well, you're wasting your money, right? So whatever that structure is, because don't think just because you and I met at the Irish place this afternoon, and I told you my swag story, and I said, boy, I've got a great little product that I think would dovetail great with your flex script. And you go, Neil, that sounds really interesting. Well, you're going to go home and you're going to start doing your shit again. Do all the work that you've got going. You're not waiting for Neil to call you the next day. So professionally, I suggest people always put people in their process. So that's where that whole, incremental changes, incremental steps, to chipping away to get somebody along your sales cycle. So some may just go right out of the gate. Oh, Neil is the greatest guy on the planet. I need to buy something from him. Sure, I'll buy something from him. Give me 100 pens. Give me 500 pens. Whatever. So I get the truck to stop. I'm happy. Blah 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 blah. Now, but that's the deal. That's what I meant. That's what I mean by those things. And that's why the first thing is getting your mindset right. And all that is going to be incremental changes as well. Because nobody's going to bite right away on this, and really embrace it to every day, but to do, here's the interesting things that we do, that I write down 3 things that I'm grateful for. I'm sure you've all heard of a gratitude practice. It's a big deal these days. We call it an appreciation practice. Little turn of phrase, because what you appreciate appreciates. That's what my wife believes. I said, all right, honey, we're going to go with that. But it does not have to be this monumental thing. I just put down a good PT session with Ashley, a great workout with Chris, because he's now following on the same exercise I needed for my shoulder, and I had a decent night's sleep, which at this stage of the game, boys, is hard to do. And then I plan what my meditation is, what my movement's going to be, and here's a key, here's a big one. What's my conscious act of kindness? Who am I reaching out to today? Who am I buying a cup of coffee from? Right? Who am I going to let go in traffic? Open the door for someone. Right? So those are the types of little things that you put in here that is all part of the whole positive activity process. I know I'm jumping around a little bit. I know I'm a little foggy, but yeah, so that's what I say, that the steps towards achievement or success are filled with the little steps. And guess what? If you embrace the wins, the little wins each time that you feel accomplished, I've done something today. I know that if I do these things every day, something good is going to happen. I did all the things I needed to do today. Now what else can I do to fulfill my day? What other productivity steps do I have for my business? Is there a phone call I make? Is there something I should know? Something I should learn? Is there an event I should go to? Right? And all that stuff could be passively planned. That makes sense?
Along those same lines, how do you figure out what is wasted is the wrong word, but you're doing an activity and you're realizing, hey, maybe this isn't worth my time. Maybe there's a better time spent doing this activity instead. What does that process or thought process look like for you?
Well, I think there's some grace in there, because we all have to make tweaks. There's a level of honesty that you have to have with yourself. Is that just to get out of something, or is it truly not working? And why isn't it working? Because most of the stuff we ever talk about, none of it is anything that you should really avoid doing. Because it's just going to take time, right? Matter of fact, so I've got this school where my son goes. I found them this group of guys that are that teach health and human service organizations. They give them the ability to recruit and retain direct service providers. A direct service provider is someone that works for not a lot of money for taking care of folks like my son. And it's hard. And what they've done is, though, they've just convinced themselves that it's hard. So they stop. So I found this group because, well, for a whole host of reasons that I won't get into, but I found them through networking, much like doing this. I found them. I got on a podcast with this guy, Casey Jaycox. It was a dad podcast. Sure, I'll go on the dad podcast. I'll talk about Craig and my other kids and whatnot. And it turns out he turned me onto this one, who turned me onto that one. I was like, boom, boom. When I pinballed all around the country and I stumbled on these guys and I listened to them, I said, dude, you're killing me here. I've had these thoughts forever. I've always told them they weren't fishing in the right ponds. I know that they can do better, but they have to be all armed and out in the field looking for DSPs, asking questions. Hey, great. Do you have some extra time? What about on weekends? Do you ever thought about working with special needs kids? You're a former athlete. They'd love to, can you take them to the gym and do this? Yeah. Oh, yeah, I do that. Maybe once a month. Okay, great. You're in, right? That's how I stumbled upon Craig's current guy that he works on the weekends with. I met him in the locker room at Inferno Pilates. He's a guy that this will come full circle. I know I'm getting a little tangent here, but he's a guy that I met in the locker room, carved from stone, right? He's 34 years old. Says, okay, hey Kyle, what is it you do? No, the first thing he did was, again, back to the little things. He said we introduced each other to we introduced each other, and I saw him like 2 weeks later. He calls me by my name. Hey Neil, how you doing? Whoa, I'm sorry. Did a 30-something-year-old just remember my name? I was like, that sounds pretty good, right? So there's that guy, right? That you're talking about in today's world. Who are those people? They exist. You gotta kind of get, dig through and find them, but they're there. And I said, so finally, a couple of weeks later, I asked him, I says, what is it you do to sustain yourself? Oh, no, what is it you do? He goes, I'm training to be an MMA fighter. Great. I think he's a little long in the tooth to be an MMA fighter, but I let it go. And he said, and then he was like, I said, so how do you sustain yourself? He goes, I drive Uber. Kid, you're in my wheelhouse. You're a hustler. I love it. Keep that in my back in my memory. So later on, we're looking for someone. I just asked him, hey, Kyle, you don't have to tell me now, but would you consider working with my son on weekends? A couple, 3 hours? Because I was Uber driving Saturday, Sunday afternoon. That's slow. Great. What do you think? Don't tell me now. Tell me after the class, or tell me whatever you want. Came up to me afterwards. Neil, I'd like to do that. It's been with him 6 months. Made an unbelievable change in his life, right? And in ours. Point of that is, these people now, I got them hooked up with this guy, and that's the type of thing that he's a proponent of. And the only way that's going to grow is when people embrace it and then make it part of their process. You're in line at the grocery store. Hey, how are you? What is it you do? I don't know. Just talk to people, right? But be armed with saying, hey, listen, I got this gig. It's kind of a part-time gig. It's kind of cool, or if you're, it doesn't pay a lot, but they pay benefits. So do you know somebody whose husband is a self-employed carpenter? Great. Hey, what about you work 30 hours a week doing this? They'll pay you benefits and you'll get $20 an hour. What do you think? I'd like to give that a try. But they're not following the process. They don't know that I know this, but I know it, and I'm meeting with her on Thursday. Point of all that is, it's the process, and it's like, so they're not doing. I think one of the things he asked them to do was to call people that have left you recently as DSPs. Say, how's it going? Are you liking what you're doing? That's number one. Ask that question. Number two, you say, are you, so once they're indicating they're not ready to come back, or it's not a job they want to do anymore. Do you know anybody who might want to do it? Okay, anybody have to pay for that? Anybody, is there huge cost to that or whatnot, other than just asking the damn question? So I always tell people, you designed it. Maybe we helped you. Maybe we coached you a little bit or mentored you a little bit. I don't like the word coach. And make a tweak if you need to, but make sure it's in the same ballpark about what you're doing, right? I mean, it's still about who can buy what you sell, You know, what your messaging is, what's your benefit statement, and how are you getting your names? You know, in your world, your guys, so if they're not out getting names every day, you know, the brokers, the advisors or whatever they are, the ones that need to get going. I mean, but sometimes people have mature practices, and it's all referrals. But you know, somebody's trying to grow a business. You should be out every day, every night, you know, in the beginning. So, and you know, there's no getting around it. You know, you just got to be fishing in the right ponds, and you know, don't be going down passing people that can't buy what you sell. That's where people get frustrated. Well, nobody's, you know, I think now, and I found that, and I'm adjusting too, because we're going through a new, um, um, you know, kind of a new campaign to get new promotional business, because we've got an agent now that's going to be selling our speaking business. But the, but we, I'm going right into the whole process, but I think the numbers are higher now. I think in order to meet 10 people, I better have 100 or so in queue. You know, so that are qualified, that I know they can buy what I sell. But you know, like in your world, there's a lot of people selling insurance and investments and all that. A lot of people selling what we do. We do it very well. We're very customer service oriented. So a lot of times we win and then we stay there. So when we don't need to get, if we got 10 new clients this year, it would be off the hook, right? So, but I know there's some adjustments that have to be made. I just have noticed that, and what I'm noticing too is that when you do, I've got a couple of guys already, you know, young guys, your guys' age or maybe a little older, that have offered, like, look through my LinkedIn. So I get my admin looking through the whole LinkedIn. I'm going to give them a spreadsheet. You tell me what are the top 10, and could you make introductions? It's 50-50 shot if they're going to do it, even after they've committed to do it. And you can't go, hey, dude, you told me you're not going to get into that. So I've just noticed that even in my world, there's going to be a little bit of a change, you know, based on here's some. I'm sure you guys are all at LinkedIn and all that. LinkedIn has lost its way, or the use of LinkedIn has lost its way. I'm sure if you're on, you're getting solicited all the time, you know, those in mails or whatnot, and they don't even call you, say your name right. And there's no way, you know, they didn't do anything to qualify you whether or not it was a potential client. It's like the craziest thing ever, because it's just a spray and pray model, right? You know, they're hoping somebody's going to be stupid enough to get back to them, and they're going to get them into their vortex and get them in their funnel and get them in a high ticket gig, you know? So anyways, long answer to a short question, but I mean, it takes but I wanted to give you that example because I'm about to have that conversation with this executive director on Thursday. Listen, prior to this, did you have a plan? And the answer is no. Well, here's a plan. Try their plan and then see what you can use. All right. Maybe make your own changes and do some things on your own. You know, you'll come up with something because of learning what they've done and been effective with. So yeah, I know what you're saying though, but people give up well, I mean, even in the 7-touch theory, if you go 7 touches, you're one of the all-stars, because most sales guys, they're gone after 2. Gone. Well, I haven't heard from them. I guess they're not going to buy. Well, if they're qualified, I'd stay with them, at least for a bit, especially if if there's not a lot of cost to it.
So, question on that, Neil, and this will be probably my last go at it, since we're coming up on time here pretty soon. But speaking of the 7 touches, with what I do, I don't like saying I'm in sales. I'm not a big selly person, but I love high level conversations. And without a doubt, sales is a massive part of what I do, running a business with a product and an app that goes with it. So I have to sell. Now, are there certain give and takes to the seven touches or different industries where you see it show in a different light? For example, what I do is so education based in the theory that, or in the sense that it's very science backed, and we need to go through the education process with an individual to see if they understand what we are working through and if it's something they have the appetite to implement. And that's generally going to be more from a schooling perspective or from a communication perspective of, is an institution, an organization on board with this approach to elbow injuries and the ability to reduce them. So again, back to the nitty gritty of the question, where does that become either more touch oriented, or are there other industries that you maybe think, or certain industries where seven touches are like, yes, this is what we need 100%, where it's almost a foolproof plan? I know I'm starting to ramble with this a little bit, but hopefully you can pick up what I'm putting down.
I did. I don't mean to be rude here. For some reason, I got to plug in over here somewhere.
You're good. Banko does the editing, so you can get this figured out.
I mean, I can fill in some of the time here, Adam, and something that popped into my head. I haven't heard it said, the seven touches theory, but and I can't find it. I've been trying to go on Google and look at the exact numbers, but I've heard the saying that Disney has done a study of, for every one negative experience, you have to have X number. I'm gonna say it's seven because we're using seven positive experiences to negate that one negative experience. So it's kind of along the same lines. It's not technically, it's not touches. It's how did you make that person feel this many times compared to a positive versus negative as well. And that's just what popped in my head when you brought that up, Neil.
So the seven touch theory, really, it's about getting attention. The end game in the business development part of the seven touches is get your one-on-one meeting. That's the game. That's the game about the seven touch. It's like, and and then and then is the follow-up going to be seven more touches once you've made a presentation? Could be, right? But the touches really just about, in my world, in business development, is just getting them to acknowledge your existence. Then you got to have your initial coffee meeting, and then that's where the rubber meets the road. And that's where you're going to have. And by the way, Adam, just by immersing yourself into a process, if you've identified, and you know who your customer is now. I mean, you're doing 3 years. That what's going on there. I just want to make sure I don't just like fade out. No, it's there. It's plugged in now. Good. Oh, it's kind of made me deal. You know who can buy what you sell, and you're not being obnoxious. You've got a very interesting idea. You've got it solves a problem. It's a solution for sure. So you just want them to come and have that meeting with you, where you can then determine whether or not that your solution is for them. Right? So you're going to sit with, so let's just say it's a dad, because it's right in my head. This kid's a hot prospect. You want to get him. You want to show him I really like the fact that not only is it going to help him with the Tommy John stuff and keeping him strong and whatnot in the shoulder. Is it in the shoulders? Is that what it winds up? Elbow
and forearm.
Sorry. And
all good.
And but it also gives him, I think gives him some movement as well, work on his movement.
Yeah. So we can get into the performance aspects of pitching as well.
I mean, you get a nice little thing that when you sit with them, you just want to get to sit with them. And that's what's going to, and those are the things you're going to touch upon when you leave a voicemail or in your notes you're giving them, right? And then in the notes you send, it could be articles, right? Or testimonials. What I guess what I'm saying is on the touches, don't rely in my world, and I think in a lot of worlds, if it's done right, don't rely on digital exclusively, because you know who you want, you can go after them, you can target them, and you just want to go make presentations, right? You want to get on Zooms and you want to talk about your product, or if you want to get in a plane, or if it's big enough prospect, if it's Notre Dame or whatever, that type of thing. So that's when you go and have your one-on-one conversation, and then you're going to determine where it goes from there. And you're going to, in my view, you set it up really passively, and it fits your personality. It fits everybody in terms of the way to set up how a call goes. And that's very simply goes something like this. Hey, Adam, thanks so much for seeing me. How much time do we have again today on this appointment? 20, 50, half an hour? Great. What I'd like to do is real quick, I'd like to tell you a little bit about me and our product, but I'd like to hear a lot about you and your challenges and what your son is experiencing with the elbow and the shoulder, what his concerns might be, and if he's interested in getting better movement on his ball. And so, but I'd like to hear more about that. And then at the end of that conversation, I can pretty much determine whether or not I think I can help you or not. And if I can't, I'll let you go. But if I can, I'll look for a follow-up and see how I can follow up and get you more information and how you can make a great decision for your son. Does that sound fair enough? Who's not going for that? Right? Even me stumbling through after 4 days in bed. So, but that's just it. I mean, it's like that is what is known as in Sandler sales, the upfront contract. Or in insurance business, they call it like when you sold when they say Medicare, sell Medicare type stuff, you'd be very careful while they talk to seniors. And that's just, you have to let them know what the scope of the appointment is. So that feeds into your personality. Sales is not about selling ice to the Eskimos. That is bullshit. It's just bullshit. People who look like slick salesmen are slick salesmen. And if they talk like slick salesmen, they're slick salesmen. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I appreciate that. Yes, that's big because, like you said, the meeting is what's most important for me. It's having the conversations with it being a slightly higher price product for most people or most individuals. It needs to be an ongoing process or discussion. There's no impulse buying a Flex Pro grip.
No.
It's all calculated. So yeah, walking through that discussion was certainly helpful. Thank you.
Cool. I mean, it's not like you don't have any moving parts in that damn thing. So this thing is called, what is this called? The vocal trainer. Looks like a little whistle. I spent $50 for this thing. And all it is, so when it's good for speaking and also singing, right? So I sing and obviously I speak. And I spent $50 on this thing. And the cost of goods has got to be less than $1. But I guess, I listened to it. I said, all right, this makes sense. Whatever I find, $50, I'll do it. You're right. Nobody's going to do that for $750 on your gig. But the kids will get into the whole app thing and, tracking themselves and all that shit. That'd be great. So, yeah. Whoa. Why do you think you get that much out of me today, fellas? I'm not going to lie.
No, we appreciate it.
Hopefully it was coherent. You don't have to chop it up too much.
No, you did great. I mean, on a more lighthearted, all I can think of is I'm still single, so maybe I should use the 7 touch points in my Hinge and dating app world, and see how that works
I'm
there.
glad you brought it up.
Grant, you're not gonna believe this. So my son, you can check him out. He's Cam Rogers. He's all over. He's a podcast. He works for a podcast company. He got you guys. He
Yeah,
found you guys. Yeah, it's you.
yep.
Did you follow him? Watch your shit?
Uh, I don't think he sent his account. We just saw it was through email that we communicated.
Yeah, I told him. Now he's out front all the time. He's had a television show, radio show, and now podcast since he was a sophomore in high school. It's all he's ever wanted. And so he's the guy out front organizing his buddies, getting the parties in line, all this stuff. And I'm thinking like, which one are you after? I'm mapping it out for him all the time. Finally, I said to him, I used technique. I used the upfront contract. Right. I said, listen, this is what's called the upfront contract. And what I would suggest you do is that you introduce yourself in this when you go out and do a Hinge date or whatever. You introduce yourself and you then let her go. Let her talk. Don't interrupt her. Right? Everybody wants to talk about themselves. Don't be that guy. Don't be what he calls himself is the CVO, the Chief Vibes Officer. I'm not kidding you. Because I
Love
told him,
that.
I might as well lean
I
into
see it
it.
on his Instagram. You're not lying.
Yeah. Oh, he's forever going, and he's on. He's doing Fox DC, Fox 5 DC. He's on doing little clips on the Commanders and this, that, and the other thing. He's got to go up to Bethesda to get there and whatnot, but he loves doing it, and because those places don't pay anything, unless you're an employee. And so but he's also doing like the whatchamacallit, the pop culture shows, like it or not. But anyways, yeah. So I think all these things. Well, final thing I'll say then is that when a buddy of mine came and visited me 2 years ago from California, he said, I read your book. He said, I really liked it. I said, great. I said, thanks. He goes, is that how you did the other stuff? I said, yep. Same process. That's how we built the first of its kind special needs education foundation here in this area. First of its kind intensive needs classroom at a community college. Discovered spelling to communicate, all these things that we've done, all because of this simple process. So there you go. So fellas, that's all I got for you. I went through a whole, I got only 2 ounces left in my 20 ounces.
I don't know if that's all you got for us, but maybe that's all for today. I know there's a lot more in the tank. There's a few things that were sprinkled in there that I felt like we could have gone off on a few tangents on. But Neil, this was awesome. We really appreciate you spending a Sunday with us and telling us a bit about the way you think, the way you operate, and what you've built.
Well, guys, good luck with what you got going. You've been gracious hosts, and I love your concept there, and I think you've got something there. I mean, tapping into the world of doting parents can be pretty good.
Well, thanks a ton. We appreciate the support. And to all the listeners, we appreciate you guys as well. Thank you.
Have a great day, guys.
Thanks, Dale. Hi, everyone. Grant here. Thanks for tuning into the show. If you could like, share, and subscribe, we'd greatly appreciate it. Also, if you think you or someone you know has a good life story to tell, we are always open to guest suggestions. You can send those suggestions to our email, tworkpod@gmail.com. Thanks again for the support.